Coming up on today's edition of Titans Today, I want to spend time talking about the rookie that I don't really think anybody is talking about. That'll be a later pick as a result, so stay tuned for it. Before we get into that, with the start of Titans training camp, at this point days away, I want you to rate the Titans rookie class. You can be full of hopium if you so choose. It's July after all. It's the perfect time to do that. Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F in the comments. The rookie we're talking about today is linebacker James Williams, who was a safety with the Miami Hurricanes, but I haven't seen, maybe there is some out there. I'm sure there is a little bit at least, but I haven't seen much love for the 7th round pick out of Miami and the potential impact he can make if he even earns a roster spot, which as a 7th rounder, he's not guaranteed, to be fair. Now, when we're talking about someone that no one else is talking about, you can't pick the 1st rounder, you can't pick the 2nd rounder, no J.C. Latham, no T'Vondre Sweat, and you can make arguments for really all of these guys having a potential role with Tennessee. I think Cedric Ray understandably is going to make probably a bigger impact to James Williams over the course of year 1, year 2, and beyond. I like Jarvis Brownlee long-term. Special teams-wise, I'm not sleeping on Jaquan Jackson either, but I want to talk about James Williams. Tennessee has kind of overhauled this inside linebacker room with the new coaching staff coming in town. Kenneth Murray was a not great 1st-round pick for the Chargers. I have low expectations for him long-term, but he can be a stopgap option for you. Jack Gibbons has filled a decent role for Tennessee last year. I do like Cedric Ray. Beyond that, question marks. Maybe Otis Reese, Luke Gifford can be backups and core special teamers. I have always been a fan of this style of player, that kind of hybrid safety linebacker role. Teams are getting smaller, they're getting faster. Having that safety who turns into a linebacker who's got the size still you're looking for, even dating way back to the Roy Williams days where that role used to be strong safety. Now it's kind of blurring the lines a little bit. That role has value. And yeah, there are other good athletes on this team. I don't think that particular safety, linebacker, hybrid, blend, tweener even, which isn't always a good thing, I don't think that role's filled right now on Tennessee. So I do think James Williams can carve out that role and hopefully emerge as a potential tight end eraser. But first, he's got to make the roster. So do you think that will happen? Y for yes, N for no. If the ad happens to come here on YouTube, it's fine. Ignore it. Head down there. Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk more about the pros of what James Williams brings. The number one thing, pretty clearly to me, is the length and the size. Even at linebacker, in that safety hybrid linebacker role, he's got the size you're looking for. He is abnormally tall. He's 6'4 1/4. He's 231 pounds. That's not the biggest at linebacker, but it's not as, 10, 15 years ago, it's too small. Now, it's big enough. 33 5/8 inch arms as well. That length matters. Allows you to shed blocks, get in coverage lanes, etc. Now, he's not a premier athlete. The vertical kind of was shockingly bad, but 4.65 is plenty fast at linebacker. The athletic profile overall is not elite. It is not even great, but it is good. It is above average, and I think it's good enough to work in the NFL, even if there's a reason he didn't do the agility, as we'll get into. Now, Williams, I think with that size profile and the overall athletic ability, you see the relative athletic score there from my guy Math Bomb, I think he has the upside to emerge as a tight end stopper. And that's the role I can picture him in. I like your safeties, Amani Hooker, Elijah Molden. Maybe they can be tight end stoppers, but that frame, when you got 6'5 tight ends out there, you want the 6'4 guy with long arms covering them. Williams played, as we'll get into, more free safety, actually, for the Hurricanes than any other role, technically speaking, narrowly at least. Good enough coverage. Wasn't always deployed in that tight end eraser role. I think his role in the NFL will be a little bit different than what it was in Miami, but he did play all over the defense for the Hurricanes. He had 2023 at 60 snaps along the defensive line in kind of an overhang role, 254 as a box, like strong safety or a linebacker, 299 at free safety, 97 in the slot, and 19 at corner. He actually did play more box in 2022, where I thought he was a little bit better, by the way, instead of having Cam Kinchins play down there a little bit too frequently, as far as I'm concerned. But if you're going to have that hybrid role, you better have the hybrid snap history in your background. So assuming he makes the roster this year, how many tackles will James Williams end up having? It's fine if the number's low. He's a 7th-round pick. Probably should put the expectations a little bit low. But sound off for me in the comments. That does bring us to one of the weaknesses here. And I see too many missed tackles on his tape. He missed 13 this past year. It's 14.8%. That's better. It was down from as high as 17 and 23.3%. He's a bit penalty prone. He's got 17 flags over the past 3 years. So cutting down on some of those mistakes is a key part of his growth and development. Now, he did not do the agility testing either. There is a reason for that. I don't think he would have tested very well. When you are that tall, when you're 6'4" and a quarter and you're 231 and you're built kind of high cut, meaning your legs and limbs are longer, in almost all cases, you end up being a little bit stiff. The extreme example is DK Metcalf, right? DK Metcalf ran that blazing 40 time and awful 3-cone. Because that's just kind of who he is. He's long. He's leggy. He's just a little stiff in transition sometimes. So I don't want him against actual slot receivers. Tight ends, though, not nearly as big of a deal. The production was intriguing enough at Miami. It got better-ish each year. Had a couple interceptions each season, at least one, some pass breakups, more tackles this past year, a couple of forced fumbles. I think that the profile of safety as a sub-package linebacker in the NFL, I think that's what we saw on film in Miami. I think that's what Tennessee's going to get out of him. Now, if you want the rookie jersey of the Titans' 1st-round pick, that's J.C. Latham, you can get yours over at chatsports.com/Latham. Link to that will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. If by chance you really want James Williams jersey, just go to Fanatics, that link, and type in his name, and you'll be able to find one. Probably going to be a little bit more expensive, though, since they don't make those ones in bulk. But the Latham one is available, chatsports.com/Latham. Over to the final weakness for James Williams. This one is less about his defensive impact and more about how you carve out a role early on in your NFL career. Special teams matters. Now, his profile does suggest that he can be a core special teamer with his size, his length, the athletic ability, etc. He didn't play a lot of special teams, though, at Miami, which does make this more of a projection than a sure thing. When you see some guys out there with 800, 600 special team snaps, the profile says he can. Need to see him do it, though, in the preseason with only 256 on his tape. Now, I want to go through where I had him graded, then where the great Dane Brugler had him. I had him 206, the number 17th ranked linebacker in the class. I did have him at linebacker, by the way. I was moving him already before he was a safety at Miami. 6th-round grade. There was not a drastic difference between where I had him graded and where Dane had him. I was a little bit higher, though, than Brugler was. He had him at 243. Just one linebacker difference there, 18 versus 17. A half round, give or take, higher. I didn't love this day 3 class in general, but I think when you're into day 3 and you're finding guys that fit a role, if they're not going to be full-time players, I think that can kind of boost their value potentially. Now, we will have Titans training camp coverage, and I am excited to see how James Williams does in that and, of course, in the preseason as well. So hit that sub button for more free Titans videos if you haven't already. Here's what Dane wrote on James Williams, little short blurb, write-up, whatever you want to call it, in the Beast. With his long, stretched-out frame, Williams has the versatility to cover and be a force player versus the run. However, his game lacks discipline and polish, and he's often caught overrunning responsibilities against both the run and the pass. Overall, he's more of a tweener athlete than a seasoned football player, but he is a full-throttle enforcer with a unique skill set that will intrigue several NFL defensive coordinators. He projects best in a robber/cover 3 scheme and offers versatility in sub-packages to blitz or match tight ends. We kind of see him similarly, right? Now remember, Titans defensive coordinator Dennard Wilson came over from the Baltimore Ravens. He used Kyle Hamilton all over the defense. He was a chess piece matchup that could align in a bunch of different spaces. Now, I'm not saying he's Kyle Hamilton. Hamilton was the number one ranked player on my board when he came out. I loved him. Williams is not that type of player, full stop. What he is, though, I see a Ran Carthon clone. I mean, everything about James Williams, the play style, the body type, the pros and cons, it's like they cloned him, at least the better version we saw briefly in Dallas. I think Dennard Wilson can utilize him. I think he can find the proper ways to deploy him and maximize his skill set. I see what the Titans were doing in this year's draft. Took the whole draft to play out, but I see what they were doing, right? You draft a massive human being in T'Vondre Sweat to pair with guys like Jeffrey Simmons, etc. You use big, hulking defensive linemen up front, and it allows you to go with more faster, athletic, if sometimes undersized linebackers. You keep those guys clean, and all of a sudden they can flow and react to the ball, and it ends up getting some good results out of it. I think James Williams fits that vision for Tennessee on defense. That is the end of today's video. If you made it to the end, we appreciate you. Spam Tighten Up for me in the comments.